Good evening, Battle Creek, and welcome to another episode of Our View. Today I have the lovely Jessie Diamante joining me. She is our new cricket instructor and support member for Women's Co-op. Welcome, Jessie.
Thank you.
I think it's only fair to tell the audience, though, that you're also my daughter, right?
I am, yes.
All right. So Jessie has been a member of Women's Co-op since you were 18, 19?
Just turned 18, yes.
18.
Yep.
Tell us a little bit about your journey with Women's Co-op.
Okay, well, as we'll say Teresa for the camera stated, I started around the kitchen table with Mom. I had just graduated high school and was pregnant with my first son when Co-op began, and it really just started as a group of women in Triangle Trailer Park, and I knew most of these women just as friends of my mom, and becoming friends of mine as I was becoming an adult and a mother and like changing from child to adulthood, and I just started to get involved in Co-op, and then when it became more than the kitchen table, I was the first program coordinator, which some people who are involved in Co-op remember, like Jamie Bain, and I did that for a few years, and then decided to go back to school and go to college and kind of change my career path into education. And then while in college, I came back and did an internship with the Women's Co-op. And then I came back again after college for Solutions Highway, which was a program that Co-op housed in their office. Throughout all this time, I've always been a member, receiving support when needed, and then graduated to what we call support member, which means I didn't actually need any immediate resources, but I was able to still come to everything, and I got to be the one to offer things to new mothers, which that's really special to me and other women. And now I am the cricket instructor because you guys just can't keep me away. So
We don't really want to.
yeah.
Let's talk about that for a minute, though, because I think that that's one of the really unique features of Women's Co-op is that the heart of what we are is that network.
Yeah.
So you can come to Women's Co-op because you need a job or you're facing homelessness or you have these barriers or struggles, and you get that initial help, but you stay a part of that network.
Right.
You take your initial classes like resiliency and parenting classes and Bridges Out of Poverty and things that give you the resources and the knowledge to be able to make that climb up like you did to college and career. Mm-hmm. But then if you stay involved, you've had pitfalls over that time span.
Oh, yeah.
And when you do, the network is there to pick you up and help you. But also during those times when things are good, you're there to help those women that things aren't going so good, and it's the start of their journey.
Absolutely, and I think it can change so quickly. Speaking of like pitfalls and helping other women, I mean, there's been times that it's came full circle where, I've been a member and I've needed something, needed help financially. I know I had issues with a car, and Co-op was able to help me. And during that time, I was also able to get rides from a few members to things to get where I needed to be when I had my young son before I was married. And then in years after, there were times that I gave people rides, Recently, I donated to a food box for a woman, and there was a time in my life that I got a food box, so. And I think that it's really cool that like you're like plugged into the network like you said, and so even though like I'm a support member on any given day, I still might need the same things that an entry-level member needs, or mm-hmm. I'm not really sure what we would refer, just a member, I suppose. Mm-hmm. And I love that like I can be a support member, and so that kind of gives me the freedom to maybe not always come to all the things because I am out trying to thrive, but I still come back, I still get my spirit fed in so many ways, and then when I need that little extra help, it's still there, and I think that's great.
And it's the fellowship that goes with that network, right? Like
yeah.
we haven't done a whole lot of this because of the pandemic, but we're starting to again. It's the potlucks, it's we're all going to the park, bring your blanket and some games. We do a lot of events like that.
Co-op camping trip.
Second
chance prom.
Can
you tell which ones are my favorite?
And we do like retreats at Marywood Girl Scout camp. So like we do a lot of fellowship events
Yeah.
that gives you an opportunity to bond with other women in your community that are going through the same things you are and struggling and trying to pull themselves up. And we can learn from each other's knowledge and wisdom and experience.
Yeah, absolutely. And another thing I think that we haven't mentioned yet that Co-op does a lot is you guys are very socially minded, and I think that you've worked a lot through like the elections and through just different like the pandemic and different things going on, very polarizing topics that have came up over the last decade in our community. You guys have brought senators to the table. You've brought people to like the mandatory meetings who can talk about this is how you get plugged in to vote, or these are the resources during the pandemic. You made masks. I mean, we're going to talk later about all the things the sewing room does, but one of the biggest things is when the mask crisis first arose, where people were trying to find them, and I know that was one of the things you guys were delivering masks to people's doors, and
Yeah, I mean, the grace of that network too, like you said, during the pandemic. We didn't stop. So we have a co-op store for those of you who don't know. And what the co-op store does is stocks everything that you need for your home that you can't buy with food assistance dollars. So you can buy food with your food assistance, but how do you buy dish soap to wash your dishes with? Where does the shampoo and the conditioner and the diapers and
Ziploc bags.
Ziploc bags and garbage bags?
You don't think about
and
those things, but
that
you need them.
I take those things for granted. I just go to the grocery store and I buy them every week. But for a lot of our families, it's a struggle to have those things. So even during the pandemic, our families didn't have to do without because we had a porch drop system. There was a group of members who would come up to the office and we would get teary-eyed, but we would stack them up with bags and addresses, and they would drive to the member's house and porch drop. And we did that with everything. We did that with furniture, like all the things that we normally did within the network, we did during the pandemic. We just did it with porch drops.
Yeah. And I think you keep making me think of other things, but I think that that's something that I love so much about Co-op is, we used to say, and I don't know if you guys still say this, I haven't heard in a while, but find a friend, not a form.
Oh, we still do.
Yeah, and I think like the embodiment of that statement really is like, it's not just these are the guidelines, this is how the organization works. Like you and Valley are always like pivot and turn, like how can we make this work? Oh, this is your situation and you don't fit into this. Well, what can we do to make this work for you? You're not trying to fit these women into a system. You're trying to make your system fit around these women. And I've always loved that.
I think that that's one of the things too, and I'm very thankful to the board of directors that we've had over the 18 years. Because by the way, folks, January 1st of this year, we've been around for 18 years.
Yeah.
A tiny grassroots organization of women who just came together to create a friend network, and we've been around for 18 years. But as we
grown up now.
sorta, but we've always, and again, thankful to our board of directors, we've always been a ground-up organization, not a top-down. So we've always allowed our members to have large roles in the decision-making and programming. We've always listened to their voices, and we've always, as you said, pivoted to be able to fit what's happening in the community now with the group of women we're serving now.
Right.
And you're treated as an individual. So we don't say, well, if you come in and you have this list of things, we're going to do this, this, and this. It's tailored, a goal plan tailored to that specific member and her situation.
Right, yeah.
And finding people in the network that she fits with. So,
Yeah.
well, let's talk about, so we have this, right? So the one thing we do is this network, and we embody women. We try to give them supportive services and love and friendship and events and fellowship. And then in addition to that, there is this civic side, which is why you and I are sitting on the stage today doing the show, because we also want to make the community aware of where our families are struggling and where there are gaps or misbeliefs, myths in the community around what families are struggling with. The one that comes to mind is Jamie Finnan from the film that we did. And so many people will say, if you need clothes for your kids, you can just go to Charitable Union. And she talked about her struggle of doing that, but not having transportation. She has 5 children, and you can only take 2 bags on the bus. Do you remember that?
Yes, I do. Yeah, and I started out as a very young single mother, and I went to Charitable Union for my baby. You know, when I had just graduated high school, I was working at Burger King, you know. I didn't have a lot. It makes me a little emotional to remember it because, you know, I went to Charitable Union, and like, so I guess what I'm trying to say is I was in that place. I was where she was, but I didn't have that same problem because I had a car. So again, every person might be different. When I seen that on the DVD, I was like, wow, like it
Mind
never
blown,
occurred to
right?
me, because I do know Charitable Unions there, and I know there are barriers, but for the most part, it was very accessible to me. But for her, it just wasn't in the same way, just because of a different, you know, different variant in her story than mine. So yeah.
And I guess we're going to plug Charitable Union today, so you're welcome, Teresa Allen. We still think your organization is
We do,
amazing. But
it is.
also, when I first started doing co-op, when we wanted to move from that kitchen table to an organization, it required me to step out and start going to meetings at the Kellogg Foundation and the Community Foundation and United Way and meeting with different groups. And okay, so today I'm real professional and I have on my hoodie and jeans, but back
Casual
then that's all I
Friday.
owned, right?
Yeah.
And so I would go in these meetings and people would be dressed in nice professional clothes that I didn't have access to.
Right.
I went to Charitable Union and got them, and I could feel like everybody else that was in the room.
Yeah.
So it is a wonderful resource, and you know, you're right, but there are these people like Jamie who the simple barrier of transportation stops her from being able to fully take advantage of it.
Right.
So, because we had this civic engagement arm and we were having discussions about how disconnected things were in the community between the families who needed services and the people who delivered that, we came up with a concept. What was it?
Our DVD,
Our film.
our film.
What did we call it?
Are you asking me?
Yes. Poverty and what did we?
I'm laughing
we ever had a
because
name for it? Oh my
we had
goodness.
several,
We
and for a
did.
moment I am actually blanking.
I think we just called it
we referred to as poverty in the
Battle
creek. Like that was our loving term for it, poverty in the creek. But I don't know, did we actually land on that, or did we land on poverty in Battle Creek?
I don't know.
Isn't that funny?
We're gonna find out as soon as the show's over.
Yeah,
We're gonna ask
yeah.
Jason.
Yes. So, okay, well, it was a film about poverty in Battle Creek. Did you want me to kind
Yeah,
of
talk a little
on
bit
what it
because you were
was, or
part of that team.
Yeah, yep. So we were just part of a committee that, you know, we really. It started, like you said, like just like looking at like poverty in Battle Creek and like the disconnect, like where, you know, because we have so many organizations in Battle Creek that I think are just phenomenal. I guess from my time getting to be at meetings, from all the different times that I came back and got re-involved in co-op, like there's so many people who literally spent hours of their time just trying to better our community. Like that's their goal. And some of them, that's their job all day, and some of them are coming from other jobs. Like that's not even their main job, but they just care so much. And I love that. But even with that many people, and then, you know, there's a lot of people who have a need in Battle Creek, sometimes we saw that it wasn't always lining up. And it was things that we didn't realize, like the situation with Jamie. And so when we had this committee, it really started as like, what are problems that people in poverty are facing? And, you know, we started to see that there was a lot of things, that there were a lot of misconceptions that even we had. There's misconceptions that the community has, and there's even misconceptions from people in poverty over what their community thinks or offers them. And so we really found that interesting and wanted to kind of do, it started out as the idea of a day in the life of following around one woman in poverty, but again, people are so different that we didn't really think that that was how we wanted to start, because it wouldn't fully capture what we were trying to say. There may be a sequel someday, you never know. But when we started talking to people about the option of a day in the life, there were so many stories we wanted to tell. And so it really just evolved into a lot of people in the community, a lot of people just off the streets, which was one of my favorite parts. Kayla rocked that out. She did some really great interviews. And then a lot of talking to members, and we had forums and discussions, and it really just focused on, this is what poverty looks like to people. This is what poverty looks like to our community members. These are some of the ways that we agree. These are some of the ways we disagree. And then we really had a portion of, how do we feel we can change it? Where can we go from here? And I love that. And then it kind of evolved. Do you want to talk about how it evolved into this? Or do you?
Yeah, how exciting.
I'll pass that back to you.
So if you want to see the film and you haven't, you can go to YouTube or you can even just Google poverty in Battle Creek, and it's one of the first things that pop up is the Women's Co-op film. So please, if you haven't had a chance to check it out, please do. And I think out of that, members were really excited about what the film represented when we showed it then, when we showed the final project. They were excited about it. And so this concept come up of, why don't we do this all the time? Like, why don't we talk about our view
Yeah.
from poverty? Like, it looks different than your view from middle class or wealth.
Right.
And let's just have a show that talks about that. So we've been doing this, I think this is like episode 8 or 9, so we've been doing it for a few months now.
Yeah.
And I think it's hugely successful. I don't know how popular we are out there in Battle Creek, but maybe our marketing department, which is also Jesse and a couple other people, will start working on that. But just being able to bring that view has made, it's answered a calling for membership, would you not say?
I think it gives a voice.
They feel like they can be heard.
Yeah.
And we've talked about some really cool things and some cool concepts. One of my favorite ones was a recent show that we did on the high cost of being low income, because that is mind-boggling to me. If I am already poor, why would you then give me predatory practices in lending, higher interest rates,
Right.
not the ability to establish good credit? Because then sometimes with our families, it's not that I established bad credit, it's that I never established credit at all.
Right. That was me. Yeah. It's hard. Yeah. The financial side of it, I think, is hard, and I think there's some really good education out there.
There is the FOC Center at Goodwill we featured a couple months ago. That's an excellent place to go for resources and to learn. Because, quite frankly, you don't know what you don't know.
Right.
Obviously, when you tell the story, people can understand that we were in poverty. I was a single mother working, and we were poor. That's why this thing started.
Right.
You started out as a teen mom struggling. I could only help you so much. You had to do it yourself.
Yeah.
And you did, and I'm proud of you.
Thank you.
But, the moral of that story, too, is that, where am I going with this?
We were talking about finances and how there's a lot of stuff out there, but you only
You don't know what you don't know.
Yeah.
Right. So, like with the FOC Center, you can go there and learn about how to flip your credit from bad to good.
Right.
And how to get away from Rent-A-Center or, payday lending or some of these things that we do because we're trying to survive. But when you're in survival mode, it's hard to get to that plan for the future mode. I know you and your husband Emerald did something when you have a Habitat home, and there was a program that you went through as a part of that. Well, can you tell us about that?
Yeah, so we actually purchased our homes through Habitat. To brag them up a little bit for a minute if I can, amazing program. My husband actually worked for Habitat, and we were renting a house, and it really wasn't sufficient for our growing family. We knew we needed something else, and then our landlord was amazing, but she decided she wanted to move to Mexico, and she gave us the first option to buy the house. However, we didn't have any established credit whatsoever, and my husband had, a job at Habitat, and I had a job. So, we had the means to pay, but without the credit, the bank wasn't able. I don't want to say they weren't willing, because I worked with a really nice girl named Andrea, but, every couple months we'd check back in, and it just wasn't where we needed to be. And so we ended up reaching out to the Habitat program and qualified for their program, and they come alongside families who have a need for housing, and they work with you. And so they worked with us. They work with you to help learn how to be financially stable, but the other thing that was really great is they worked with us even though, we weren't financially, as far as credit and things like that.
Right.
They will look past that in some ways or help you overcome it. So we were able to start the process right away of working towards a home, where it would have been like a 2-year process with the bank. And then the other really cool thing is there's amazing volunteers. Like, I absolutely love the volunteers that I met through Habitat. And amazing staff, and so you work on the house with them. I don't remember the hour. I think it's 500 hours total that we had to put in work hours. But the people who worked with you could donate like 8 of their hours that day to you, which was really great. But you're in there and you're working on the house by yourself. I grouted both of my bathroom floors. I've never grouted anything, so that was really cool. I learned how to do some different spackling and stuff with drywall. Just a lot of stuff that really empowered me. But to get to the part that you were referring to, while we were going through the process of working on our house and getting this mortgage that we could actually, qualify for because of the help, they wanted to make sure that once we got into the house that we would be financially able to, go the course and do what we needed to do. And so we actually did a program through Dave Ramsey. And I think I think there's an actual title for it, but he has several, so I'm not sure which one we did. But I just remember that it was Dave Ramsey, and we love Dave Ramsey. Like, we follow his podcast now. My husband subscribes to his website, but we just learned a lot. And actually, Dave encourages you not to have credit at all, which is a whole different kind of thinking. But it just taught us a lot. And I would just encourage anybody who is looking for housing to look into the Habitat program, or if you're looking to make a difference in your community, to look into volunteering for the Habitat program. My husband still volunteers for them frequently, and we just, again, adore the people that work there. And if you're in a good place with housing, but if you need something financially, I would just, Google or look up Dave Ramsey. He has several programs, and yeah, it made a world of difference for us.
And I think that that's one of the things that Co-op tries to encourage. So like with your experience with that, we've talked about Emerald coming and doing some simplified classes about budgeting and stuff at Co-op. So sharing those experiences and things as you go out there and move through other programs, or inviting those programs in. So you had a really good experience with Habitat. Hey, Co-op, let's have Habitat come in and share with all of our families how they can access that. And that's the beauty of the network.
Yeah.
So, so we don't run out of time because you and I are gabbers. We've got some stuff on the table today, and we're talking about what Co-op is currently doing. So you alluded to you are the cricket instructor.
Yes.
So you have some of your cricket products out here.
Yeah, and it's not the bug and it's not the game, because I know people are like, cricket, like.
Cricket. I used to play cricket the game when I was little. Yeah.
I never have, but it's not that.
It's fun. Except for watch your shins, but it's fun. But we also have some of the stuff that the industrial sewing program is. So let's talk about those training programs.
Okay.
So Co-op has 4 training programs. We have frontline reception, which teaches you, you run our front desk and learn the skills that it takes to be a clerical receptionist or administrative assistant in the real world. So you can go from our training program to an employer. And then we do commercial janitorial, and then the industrial sewing, which is the class that you're part of and do instruction.
Right.
And then we just added an arm that's industrial manufacturing and light production, general labor. We have a partner, Marshall Excelsior Company, that helps us with that training program where women can learn manufacturing and production and go to work in that field.
Yes.
So very exciting. So if you're interested in any of those fields, please contact us at the Women's Co-op and get more information, because we would love to have you. But let's talk about some of the things we have featured. So,
well, let's talk a little bit about what cricket and sewing is first.
Okay.
Sewing's, because some people know, some people don't. So, well, for the sewing side of it, do you want to talk a little on that, like Linda, some of the things?
Sure. So we can start there.
Yeah.
So
it's really
a lot of
cool
our
what they
products
do.
are recycled, which also very much excites me because I want to cut down.
They get even better, but yes.
Right. I don't want to fill the landfills, and so. For example, this purse is made out of recycled denim. So this is a pair of denim that nobody was going to wear anymore. Could have had a hole in the butt. I'm not exactly sure. But they put it together into this lovely denim bag.
And the front part was a sweatshirt. I remember Linda said she found some
this was a sweatshirt that somebody had donated that
Yeah.
was really pretty. I think it's really quite lovely. But they did that. And then this is one of my favorites. That's why I brought it. This is an apron made out of a little girl's dress. So it was a little girl's dress, and the buttons had broke off of it, and so they used just the front of the dress and attached some little strings, and you have a mommy and me apron here. So that's adorable. And then also one of my favorites, we get a lot of quilts And they turn them into pot holders. So the quilts might not be good anymore to use, but they can be turned into these pot holders. I have some of these at home. I actually really like Co-op's pattern for these.
Yeah.
Because I hate it when you put on an oven mitt and then you literally feel like this trying to grab your pan, like I feel like I'm going to drop it. But these are so nice. Have you tried them?
I haven't.
They're
No.
really
Is this
nice.
the
I'm going to
same
talk
thing?
you into buying some of these before the show is over.
Yeah, it's kind of like a gripper.
Yeah, and then lastly...
Is this a hot plate?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's cute. I like that.
Yep. And then lastly, they do these bowls. I really can't do them justice by showing them on the screen because you kind of got to touch them and feel them. But they're cloth, but they also have like this hard stuff in them. And they're hot plates. So you can put them on the table and serve food in them, like in the bowl. Or like my favorite thing to do with mine is when I make soup in the microwave, I put it in here and carry it to my
Yeah.
little chair and
That's smarter
watch
than what I
TV.
do. I usually like try to walk a few steps, set it down, and then walk a few more.
Yeah, no, you need one of
So,
these.
yeah.
But they're washable and they're reversible. So like this one has pumpkins and a cool fall pattern. And then when you reverse it, which I'm not going to try to do right now, it kind of has a spring pattern. So it's really cool.
We just pop it, right?
Yeah.
Pretty easy to reverse, yeah. Oh,
So,
and then the scrubs. They make scrubs.
Oh,
well,
you
they
wanna
make
hold that one up?
a lot of things, actually.
Yeah, they're not
way
limited
more than
to
what
just
we
this. This is
featured
just
here.
some of our favorites we wanted to feature.
Scrub tops. And I wish you I should have asked you to bring it because one of my favorite things they make, and I didn't know what they were at first, was the scrub caps.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, do you want to talk on that for a second? Just what they are?
Yeah, they're just so, they're like instead of a hairnet, you can use the cap. Mm-hmm. Yep.
Yeah, and they do different patterns, so sometimes they match the scrubs or they have other fun patterns. And I know you mentioned that some of the chefs started wearing those instead of those
Instead of the hairnets.
adorable
because they're-
blue hair nuts that are so fabulous. So
So
yeah,
let's
and
talk a little bit about
well,
the
one
Cricut
other thing
stuff.
I just want to plug about the sewing room that I love, being only 5 feet tall, they tailor clothing. Like I actually am having them. I have a wedding next month, and they are going to tailor my dress. So if you need things tailored, they're your girls.
Or fixed or mended, they sew.
Yes. So to quickly finish up with the Cricut Room. So basically a little bit of overview what Cricut is it's a design program. And it's basically a printer that cuts vinyl. You go in and design the vinyl how you want. It prints it off in a large sheet. But the thing is that it will cut out, I guess we'll show with this one because this is a pretty cool intricate pattern. I'm not sure, am I pointing to this one? So it will cut, like we made this design on the shirt and then cut it, and then you lay it on the shirt, and then we use heat to apply it. And then the shirts that I'm showing you today that have this really cool pattern is another member that specializes in tie-dye. So she came in and tie-dyed a lot of shirts for us. So we
Like
did
this
some
one?
fun designs. So we have this one.
So she
and
tie-dyed the shirt and then the Cricut Girls Cricut over the top of it.
that's one of my favorites, surviving motherhood one pair at a time, because if that ain't the truth, I don't know what is. We do.
And so we do classes, so
Yep,
you
I was
can
gonna
come.
say, we do classes, so you can come and learn. I have girls who send me pictures of things like, oh, I want to make something that looks like this. I just had a girl send me the funniest, it says Mama's Boy, but the O is the Jason mask for Halloween, and said, I want to design something that looks similar to this. Can you help me? Absolutely. So she's going to come in and we're going to work on that. So we do things like that.
And then these are marketable skills. You can
yeah.
make money at home making this because it's
Right.
not just T-shirts. You can put this on signs or bottles or
Yeah,
cups.
all sorts of things. And it's just fun when you have kids too. I personalize a lot of my kids' stuff. We really like that.
Or like for the sewing, you can learn how to be a tailor and a sewer.
Yeah.
Well, we are running out of time. We have to wrap this up. Jessie, I want to thank you so much for joining us today. I'm not going to cry, but I am really proud of your journey at Co-op and all the things that you've been able to achieve because of Co-op and Habitat and all the other things in the community and the resources and because I'm your mama. And I'm proud of all the things that we're
Yeah.
doing. So thank you for joining me today to highlight that. Thank you, Battle Creek, for joining us. Keep coming back. We'll be back soon.
And thank you for having me. And I hope I don't run out of time in saying that, my journey is your journey. And I couldn't be prouder of the co-op and the fact that I get to sit at this table with you today. So
Thanks.
good for you and all the members, because I love you all.
Say goodnight, Battle Creek.
Good night, Battle Creek.